I'm not the boy next door. I don't look like a cream puff.
Now, tell me, how do you make money?
I knock people down.
Funny way to make a living.
Charles Bronson, Hollywood's most famous mustache. The man who decked Robert Redford, shot Henry Fonda, coached Elvis, had drinks with Alain Delon, and kissed Liz Taylor. He shot anything that moved and beat up generations of stuntmen. He was a bona fide manly man, made to race around without a seatbelt in fast cars and to hold the world's most beautiful women in his muscular arms.
Well, this all comes natural to me. I have no problems. I ride well, I shoot well, I handle a gun well. I jump, I swim, I fight, I do everything well anyhow. So there's no problem for me.
Los Angeles, 1954. A Pontiac is cruising down Hollywood Boulevard. The driver's name is Charles Buczynski. This 33-year-old actor has yet to break out of bit parts and into the big time. A name change might help. With communists being blacklisted, his Slavic-sounding last name is a liability. So, as they roll along, his wife Harriet and two friends are brainstorming, reading street signs. When they come to Bronson Avenue, somebody shouts, "There it is, Charlie! It's simple, neutral, and it starts with a B. It's perfect." Everyone looks at Charles Buczynski, who laconically replies, "Okay." Charles Bronson. The name sounds like a fresh start. From now on, nothing will stand between Charlie and success. At least that's what he thought, because fame continued to elude him for many years.
Everything goes so slow. How much longer we have to wait, Dolly?
John, you must be patient.
Patient! I have no more patience.
The Charles Bronson story is a story about revenge, about an achingly slow climb to stardom. On the way, he forged steel armor so hard it was almost impenetrable. It would later be a burden to him as an actor.
As I go through life, I'm a pretty hairy bastard sometimes. Sometimes. I don't mean that I lie, cheat, and steal, but otherwise, I'm hard on people. I kind of make little judgments. They may be wrong sometimes, but, how do I know?
Where does he get this brooding air? Why does he give off this aura of suspense? As if he were, like John Huston said, a hand grenade with the pin pulled, about to explode.
In America, it's competitive constantly, and everything is a jungle.
I suppose you've been down the long, hard road.
Who hasn't?
In 1976, when Charles Bronson was at the peak of his glory, he starred in Walter Hill's first feature, Hard Times. Like the drifter he played, Bronson, a child during the Depression, knew the bitter taste of poverty.
I used to work on a road building gang, breaking rocks with sledgehammers. I used to work in a coal mine. I used to work on a beach with a beach chair concession. I used to be a lifeguard. I worked in a bakery. I worked in a factory sweeping floors. I worked in the outside of a coal mine. I worked as a laborer carrying big pieces of meat into mess halls, into restaurants and things like that. I worked in a tire warehouse, throwing tires and stacking them up. I was an assistant bricklayer. You want some more? I have many more, but that's ridiculous.
Born Buczynski on November 3, 1921, in a western Pennsylvania mining town, Charlie was the 11th child of a Lithuanian immigrant couple. Neglected and with hardly any friends, he developed an inferiority complex exacerbated by speech disorders. Leaving high school at age 18, he found a job at the mine. He labored there until World War II offered him an escape.
I was drafted into the Army from the coal mine. And it kind of opened up the world to me, and I decided then what to do with my life.
After the war, Charlie went back to school thanks to the GI Bill. He began dating a young drama student, Harriet Tendler. He was 26, she was 18. He took her virginity, taught her to iron his shirts, and married her 2 years later. This perfect little post-war couple moved in Philadelphia artistic circles. Charlie made friends.
I met a man in a gym who said, Jesus, you know, I go to an acting class. He said, you ought to be an actor. He says, why don't you come to class with me? It was one of those things. So I gave it a whirl, and I kind of liked it. The first play I saw was Anna Lucasta. I saw that in Atlantic City. He and I were watching it. I said, how much do they get paid for this? He said, like $75 a week. I thought that was pretty damn good money. So I decided to become an actor.
But his speech defect barred his way to a career on the stage. A casting director suggested he move to Hollywood, where there was a demand for character actors audiences could identify with. Many war veterans leaped at the opportunity to make a living in the movies. Charlie convinced young Harriet to put her own ambitions on hold. They boarded a bus, and on October 5th, 1949, the couple arrived in Los Angeles. Within a year, he'd signed his first contract. He was 28.
You beat up 4 men, you put one of them in sick bay, and you've got nothing to say?
They said I'd take a bath in the distilled water. I didn't take no bath in it. I told them it evaporates.
Bronson's sinister appearance quickly won him many parts.
I received a letter giving this address and signed Professor Jarrett, but I know the professor's dead. Can you tell me who wrote this letter?
Listen, we're gonna live with you, we're gonna see you, and we're gonna smell you. We don't have to listen to you. Now, shut up! Come on, get up, come on. Come on.
Short and stocky, but wonderfully agile and muscular, he was the perfect ne'er-do-well. There were plenty of parts for a feisty thug full of bravado.
I'm only a poor nameless number.
Hello, Jack.
Hello, Johnny.
You know, some people think you're part Indian because you're so convincing as an Indian.
That's what I am. It's the Mongolian blood. You know, the Indians and the Mongols are supposed to be related.
The Indians have made a big fuss about it, and so they should. If there are actors that are Indians, why not use them?
Bronson's chiseled features and high cheekbones made him a believable Indian in a Hollywood still blissfully ignorant of political correctness. He played the rebel chief in westerns by Robert Aldrich, Sam Fuller, and Delmer Daves.
I'm Blue Buffalo.
In 120 temperature, with a wig on, was sticking to me, and every morning about 4:30 in the morning, I would be sprayed with red paint all over my body. And then, through the day, you'd sweat, of course, and the paint would run off, and they'd keep spraying it. The guy with a spray can would follow you around all day long.
Bronson was soon nicknamed the Hollywood Indian.
If my people want kill, we kill. I ask my people. Now what called me? Oh!
Bronson made his debut as a leading man in low-budget productions. His performance as the superstitious, cowardly gangster Machine Gun Kelly made a name for him in Europe, but went unnoticed in the United States, where Bronson had to accept television appearances to make a living.
Fellow asked me what was wrong with his baby picture. Look at all this dark area here. There's just not enough light. Now, I've been using leads for years. GE polymites. You see, GE polymites give you just the right amount of light for better baby pictures. Just pop the bulb into your flash holder and shoot.
In 1958, he landed the leading role in a detective series sponsored by a flashbulb maker.
Man with a Camera, starring Charles Bronson.
Playing a freelance photographer, he tried to shed his hoodlum image, but the series ran for only 2 seasons, not enough to land Bronson anything other than more supporting roles.
It's time to move out to a new movie site. In the new location, scenes will be shot of the Dirty Dozen preparing for their final desperate mission. Director Aldrich, functioning very much like a general, spends weeks commanding the huge troop movements that involve over 1,000 actors and technicians.
60s blockbusters tended to feature plenty of perspiration and male camaraderie, big audience draws. The star-studded casts of these epics also fascinated filmgoers.
It's a job for 6 men, watching over a village south of the border.
How big's the opposition?
30 guns.
Bronson was cast as one of the gunmen in The Magnificent Seven. It was an enormous success. He continued in the same vein with The Great Escape and The Dirty Dozen. On set, competition between the male actors was fierce. They'd do anything to stand out. The Magnificent Seven and The Great Escape propelled Steve McQueen into the star stratosphere. But Bronson wasn't as cool as Steve McQueen. He excelled at only one specific type of role, where he could define his character with intense physicality and few words.
What happened?
They tried to make me talk.
It didn't occur to anyone to offer him anything else.
You, and you over here. Line up. Go like this. Good, very good.
Now over 40, Bronson was still being cast in supporting roles as the sadistic tough guy.
It works. 3 more.
His career was stalled.
How did you first meet?
We were in Germany, and I went to the rushes of a movie he was making, and I saw him, and he grinned at me, and I thought he had a very appealing grin.
Yes, he does.
And
Sure.
what are you looking at, Charlie? You can't
Gone with
see
a mustache.
No, show us the grin. That's it.
While shooting The Great Escape, Bronson had an affair with Jill Ireland, wife of Man from U.N.C.L.E. star Dave McCallum. Ireland, who was from a bookish English family, tried to convince Bronson to break out of the mold and take leading roles in European-made westerns. Bronson refused. At the time, Europe still seemed like a refuge for actors who had failed in Hollywood. But when the 2 Italian westerns he'd turned down changed an anonymous American into an international movie star, Bronson realized he was wrong and set off across the Atlantic.
Adieu l'ami, scénario original du romancier d'origine marseillaise Sébastien Japrisot et réalisé par Jean Herman, l'homme à la pipe que voici encore, illustre donc les aventures d'un jeune médecin démobilisé, Alain Delon, et d'un camarade de rencontre auquel Charles Bronson prête son visage de dur du cinéma américain.
Qu'est-ce qui vous a incité à aller chercher Bronson?
Il était absolument nécessaire.
Il était nécessaire pour Adieu l'ami, il fallait que le vilain, le vilain, soit Bronson, quelqu'un qui ait la capacité physique de Bronson.
C'est Delon qui a insisté pour avoir Bronson, que très curieusement il avait connu parce qu'il avait acheté un tableau de Bronson.
C'est un Bronson peint.
Bronson peint, oui.
To coax Bronson to sign, the French producers offered him $100,000, double his usual fee. Adieu l'ami was a blockbuster hit worldwide.
Adieu l'ami.
Or almost.
Le film a été acheté par la Paramount, qui a dû le trouver un peu difficile pour le Middle West, et qui du coup l'a gardé. Il est passé en fait aux États-Unis qu'à la télévision.
In 1968, Bronson met the man who would change his career. Sergio Leone saw Bronson, an actor Hollywood studios had always sidelined, as nothing less than America's greatest star. Bronson was the only actor powerful enough to be this stern marble colossus playing a sad tune on a harmonica.
Did you bring a horse for me?
Well, looks like we're shy of one horse.
You brought too many.
The role clinched the Bronson formula once and for all. A steely-eyed gaze, a magnetic presence, and few words, if any.
Naturellement, moi qui j'adore faire pas beaucoup de dialogues dans les films, j'ai besoin de beaucoup de regard. Mon personnage, il vit à la journée, sans problème, avec la certesse de mourir. C'est un ballet de mort.
With Once Upon a Time in the West, Bronson grew a skin he'd never be able to shed, that of the loner seeking revenge.
Who are you?
The focal point of a violent drama about the birth of the United States. American distributors thought the feature was too long and too violent, so it was cut prior to its U.S. theater release. It was only mildly successful with critics and moviegoers. To Bronson, the native son, this was another defeat. But in the rest of the world, the movie was a phenomenal hit, propelling Bronson to international stardom.
Monsieur Charles Bronson est venu de très loin, et d'Hollywood, pour être précis, signant des autographes en grande vedette qui ne se prend pas au sérieux.
Je te demande pardon. Je croyais te trouver seule.
Millie est occupée ce soir.
At the insistence of his new wife, Jill Ireland, who was given a supporting role in the same movie, Bronson agreed to shoot a film by René Clément, intended as a vehicle for Marlène Jobert. Rider on the Rain describes a brief encounter between Mellie, a young woman who has just killed her rapist, and Harry Dobbs, an American who pops out of nowhere and wants to make her confess to the murder. Their scenes together exude an amorous yet impossible complicity. Bronson's performance eclipsed Jobert's.
Il est presque 6 heures. La pendule va sonner de l'entrée, la veuve. Je vous laisse jusqu'au dernier coup pour me dire que vous l'avez tué. Ou alors, c'est moi qui vous tue.
Je vous jure, je vous dis la vérité.
Moi aussi.
Je vous crois pas.
Moi non plus.
Quand un homme comme Bronson torture littéralement, je parle au sens figuré, bien entendu, moralement, torture cette fille pour savoir ce qu'il veut savoir d'elle, avec une misogynie, à un moment qui dépasse vraiment les bornes, à un moment donné, le tour se fait. De la dureté, on passe à la tendresse, et cette tendresse est d'autant plus visible et violente et forte.
Rider on the Rain was a box office hit worldwide and won the Golden Globe for Best Foreign Film, proof that the U.S. majors had been blindsided by the Bronson phenomenon.
En anglais.
In English?
Non, on refait en français.
Just 3 features had made Bronson a hot property in Europe, where producers eagerly paid him $500,000 per film. His name attracted investors. Red Sun by Terence Young was a French-Italian-Spanish co-production with a cast calculated to draw audiences on every single continent. Bronson was reunited with Alain Delon, along with Japanese actor Toshiro Mifune. The ex-Bond girl Ursula Andress was the cherry on top of all that testosterone.
Christina, you're a whore. You've always been one. You'll always be one.
You always did know how to speak to a woman.
In the wake of Bullet, starring Steve McQueen, alpha males traded their bucking broncos for powerful cars. Long chase scenes thrilled action film audiences. The one at the beginning of The Family by Sergio Solima lasted for 10 suspenseful minutes as Bronson eluded his pursuers. In a melodramatic plot twist, the hitman, Bronson, is betrayed by the woman he loves. In the end, though, she gets her comeuppance. Bronson's hangdog air melted many a heart.
Shoot. Must be a rookie. You don't shoot, I'll kill you.
Like Alain Delon, Bronson became a celebrity in Japan, where a major cosmetics brand paid him millions to endorse a line of male skincare products, adding a metrosexual gloss to his brawny guy image, quite ahead of the trend. Even young comic book fans in Europe were entitled to a version of Bronson, the model for the character Archie Cash, a romantic outlaw adventurer. Despite his soaring fame, Bronson was irritated to see his movies ignored by American distributors and audiences. He wanted to renew his ties with Hollywood. In the nick of time, Jill Ireland introduced him to one of her ex-boyfriends, British director Michael Winner.
He's famous for being fairly difficult, Charlie. He's not really, but I do remember one time, the first picture I did with him was called Chatto's Land. It was a Western made in Spain. And I remember he had a wonderful part, Charlie. He was this half-breed Indian who was being hunted by a posse headed by Jack Palance. It was a great part because the posse kept saying, he's behind the rock. and Charlie would be in the hotel having a Campari. He didn't actually have to come out too much, you see. But one night he came out, and the Cadillac bumped into this dusty bit of Spain, and it was a night where his wife was staked out nude to a stake, you see. And I said, you come out of this bush in your loincloth, and you crawl along here, and you cut this rope, releasing your wife. So he said, I'm not going to do it. He said, I do not appear on the screen with naked women. And what we did was, when he left, we saw the naked wife lying, we panned along her body, we go up to her eyes, and their eyes dart upwards, you see, and then we cut to Charlie cutting the steak. So he sees the film, he loves it, and the first thing he says, Michael, you did a terrible thing. He said, you cut those two shots together, you made it look like I was on the screen with a naked woman.
Michael Winner shuffled the cards in the Bronson deck. In Chatto's Land, he showed the hero clad in a skimpy loincloth. Bronson had always been willing to show off his physique. This tolerance for being half naked was surprising in an actor too prudish to appear on screen with nude women. But it wasn't Bronson's first self-contradiction. At 50, he'd lost none of his animal magnetism, as director John Landis, who was a mere assistant back then, recalls. He played an Indian, so he wore a loincloth for the entire movie. I just remember thinking, man, he's in good shape. He wasn't a very tall guy, but he was muscular and had a powerful presence. He would sit there and just glower. Nobody would ever talk to him. The Winner-Bronson duo worked so smoothly that they immediately started a new feature. The Mechanic begins with an impressive sequence, emblematic of the Bronson formula. A silent, suspenseful opening lasting over 15 minutes, while the hitman meticulously prepares for his first execution. Michael Winner distilled Bronson's essence once and for all. Minimal expression, maximal effect. The original script of The Mechanic told the story of a killer who has an explicitly gay relationship with his young male apprentice.
Oh, Arthur, this is my son, Steve. Steve, this is Mr. Bishop.
Hi, how are you?
To sign Bronson, the film's American producers removed all references to homosexuality and added a call girl character. Bronson held out against Irwin Winkler to get Jill Ireland hired for the part.
I had a feeling.
Without him, we didn't have a picture. If he'd asked me to hire his father to play the call girl, I'd have agreed.
It'll be 100 more this time. The letter took me a while to make up.
Michael Winner's camera, lingering on the young male crotch, restored the sexual ambiguity of the original script. Bronson's vision may have been blurred by too many Camparis. The first two Winner-Bronson pictures were largely ignored by U.S. audiences, since they were distributed only as a double feature. But their international success aroused the Americans' curiosity.
60 members of the foreign press last year voted my next guest the most popular actor in the entire world. It's odd, because most of the films that have made him a superstar haven't been seen in this country. And he is an American actor, which makes it doubly odd. It's Mr. Charles Bronson.
In 1972, Bronson escalated his efforts to conquer the U.S. market. He joined forces with Dino De Laurentiis, the famous Italian producer, also determined to prevail by churning out imitations of hit movies. Bronson was signed to star in a movie that capitalized on The Godfather's success.
And of course, The Godfather was such a smash that they probably feel...
Well, it isn't because of The Godfather. The Godfather is a good picture, and it is such a smash, as you say. But it has nothing to do with The Godfather. I think a lot of the information that Puzo got for the book, The Godfather, came from the Valachi papers. Because it was Joseph Valachi who revealed everything there was to know about the mafia.
You'd admit that some of the motivation for wanting the picture out, though, would be the great financial success of The Godfather.
Every picture is supposed to be a financial success. This is why they make them.
Yeah. I like a direct answer.
The movie grossed high. De Laurentiis secured Bronson's loyalty with a percentage of box office and signed him for 3 more pictures.
How much cost the Bronson? Bronson cost $750,000. I have no secret. In America, it's no secret, fortunately. Everything is open. You can say it's true.
Bronson teamed up with Michael Winner again for The Stone Killer, playing a dirty-dealing police chief, a type that was fashionable in the 70s.
Stop!
His cop character is reminiscent of the one portrayed on screen 2 years earlier by an old acquaintance.
I know what you're thinking. Did he fire 6 shots or only 5? You've got to ask yourself one question. Do I feel lucky? Well, do you, punk?
I didn't see the movie, but I did read the script. It came around to me. It came around to a lot of actors, I suppose. I would like to have done that script, but there was a reason why I was committed to something else. Or maybe it was because they didn't want me at the time. I don't know. I don't remember, but I did read the script. And I thought that was pretty damn good. It was a good script. And I thought Clint Eastwood fit it beautifully.
Bronson's the outstanding example of the currently fashionable impassive school of film acting. Clint Eastwood's another of the breed. They each have this uncanny ability to get through an entire film without moving a single facial muscle.
In this race, Bronson had to figure out a way to break into the lead. On the last day of shooting The Stone Killer, Michael Winner and Bronson announced they'd make another picture together, the turning point in Bronson's career. Death Wish was the story of Paul Kersey, a New York accountant who goes insane when his wife and daughter are assaulted. This ordinary citizen roams the city as a killer when he discovers police carelessness about crime and his own fascination with guns. Quite a hot potato. Preparations for this controversial movie were surrounded by precautions. Dino De Laurentiis agreed to produce it, but wanted the word death taken out of the title. According to him, it spelled box office doom. But Michael Winner persuaded him to drop this demand.
Who is it? Groceries, ma'am.
The distributors demanded white assailants. To avoid accusations the movie was racist, Winner complied in the first assault scene.
Hey, Mother. Look at the artiste doing his art. Ain't that beautiful, Mother?
My purse is in the kitchen.
But then he made some muggers black,
Going down, motherfucker.
drawing charges of hypocrisy. Bronson was the only one who got his way. His accountant character, too wimpy for his taste, was changed to an architect.
Thanks, Paul.
When it came out in 1974, Death Wish aroused a lot of hostility. Its detractors pointed out that its apocalyptic vision of New York City pandered to reactionary Republican Richard Nixon's obsession with law and order. Others saw it as a propaganda vehicle for the powerful gun lobby.
Well, of course, the idea of vigilantes is awful. It's not a theme that I approve of, but the picture doesn't say go and get a gun and kill your local mugger. The picture says society has reached this extraordinary point where people are so desperate for law and order that anyone who does this would be applauded.
New York Times critic Vincent Canby called it despicable while Roger Ebert in the Chicago Sun-Times wrote, "Death Wish is a quasi-fascist advertisement for urban vigilantes done up in a slick and exciting action movie."
It was just a movie. It was made for whatever entertaining qualities were in it for that kind of an audience that would enjoy it. And that kind of an audience did enjoy it.
Oh, they'd stand up and cheer. I saw it in the theater.
And it was give them something that they could get out of the movie that they couldn't do for themselves.
Winter closed with a scene of Kersey openly enjoying killing. Martin Scorsese remembered that ending, and Taxi Driver closes with a self-destructive version of it.
When was the last time you stood up and applauded a movie?
Death Wish was a massive hit. It unleashed a questionable tide of vigilante movies about ordinary citizens who go on shooting rampages, driven berserk by both incompetent police and lenient courts.
There's a storm brewing in this man. They took his arm, they took his family, and his soul. His anger is building, and it's going to explode.
Death Wish changed everything for Bronson.
Ladies and gentlemen, one of the top motion picture stars in the entire world today, Mr. Charles Bronson, right over there. Thanks, Frank.
At age 53, Bronson had finally achieved superstar status in Hollywood. However, he also became the ultimate poster boy for the gun lobby, still remembered today.
Charles Bronson, right? The late, great Charles Bronson. Name of the movie? Come on. Death Wish. Remember that? We're going to cut you up, sir. We're going to cut you up. Beep.
I think that Charles's appeal is that he's a man of action who does all the things that people wish they were doing or wives wish their husbands were doing. But at the same time, although on the whole they're violent acts in actionful pictures, I think he does them with a lot of sympathy. I think he has himself a certain humanity, a certain softness in him that you feel that although he's doing these violences, he nevertheless is doing them and is basically a nice man, which may sound peculiar, because how you can kill 30 people in the course of an hour and a half and be a nice man, but of course you can.
Having reached the peak of his career, Charles Bronson could do as he pleased. His contemporary Clint Eastwood had chosen to follow Sergio Leone's path by directing a series of grim westerns.
Who are you?
I would have been very dissatisfied to look back on my career someday and say all I did was just a few films and they made some money and that was great, but it seems to me that it's my responsibility, either to myself or to whatever, to reach out and try other things.
Bronson had no such desire.
I live the same life. I eat the same food, do the same exercising, everything else is the same.
His vision of himself and his career was simple.
I read a script, and it's a piece of entertainment to me. It's something that I feel the people are going to see or not see. So you've got to make it for a world population and for the success of that piece of material, whether it's going to make money so that you can continue making pictures from the money you earn from that picture. That's what it's all about in the first place.
Basically, Bronson took joy in other things. His family had become the center of his life. He and Jill Ireland were now the parents of 6 children, some theirs, some from their previous marriages. They divided their time between a mansion in Bel Air and a 260-acre farm in Vermont. Between pictures, Bronson fled there in search of peace and quiet.
Tell me about that farm in Vermont.
There's about 300 acres of land around it.
Oh, that's lovely.
And we have 3 ponds on it, 2 1-acre ponds and 1 5-acre pond. They have fish in them. And plenty of woods.
He really is happy when he's there.
How much time do you get to spend there?
Not enough. Not enough.
What counted most for Bronson now with each new picture? A big fat fee. And whether they'd find a part for his wife.
A lot easier than yours.
All right, Mr. Colton, what is your price?
Well, like I said, we're pretty busy, got a lot to handle.
How much?
$1,200
Agreed.
and $39
Good enough.
and 52 cents.
His demands on Jill's behalf drove directors crazy, especially combined with his surly attitude on set.
See, everything goes a lot easier and a lot less trouble when you do business with me.
You keep talking, I'm gonna take your head off.
Hey! Leave the melons you picked or messed up right there. Pile in the truck and get out of here.
Written by Elmore Leonard and directed by Richard Fleischer, Mr. Majestic was one of Bronson's favorite pictures. He played a fiercely independent melon farmer who ends up defending his Mexican laborers. A cool character with a cult following, cited by Quentin Tarantino in True Romance.
Marty, you know what we got here? Motherfucking Charlie Bronson. Mr. Majestic. Looky here, Charlie.
Even though he enjoyed acting, Bronson had an ornery streak. Once, on the first day of shooting, he criticized the crew for working too slowly. Richard Fleischer couldn't believe it. The whole crew froze up. They gave Bronson the silent treatment. Not a single friendly word, only what was strictly necessary. The only thing that surprised Bronson was that they called him Mr. Bronson instead of Charlie.
I'm happy you think it's colorful. Because if anything does happen to her, I've forgotten that line like I knew I would.
Directors famed for their craft grew weary of him and were replaced by hacks. Bronson shot one film after another, trying to change his image as a cold, ruthless vigilante. He played opposite Dominique Sanda in a tribute to the classic Casablanca.
I am Marie-Alessandri.
Welcome to Casablanca.
Bronson's life seemed to imitate his art, as he played introverted, misanthropic anti-heroes, living on the margins of society, on the run for breaking the rules.
Then leave me be.
I have to take you in and clear this up. That's the law, and I can't change it.
To you, I'm just a name on a form that you have to fill out.
Great lonely wolves, wild creatures whose sensitivity he explored.
Though in life I used to hold her, now she's dead. I'll draw the line. Oh, my darling Clementine, you are lost and gone forever.
And yet, the reviews were unenthusiastic, and his career was going south. Bronson seemed trapped by his own image. In one of the few newspaper interviews he gave, he openly admitted he was disappointed. I'm not a Charles Bronson fan. I don't think I turned out the way I thought I would turn out when I was a kid. It's a disappointment. I'm a disappointment to me. My image, my sound, everything else. A big disappointment.
Canon Films, the company of the future.
In the early 80s, Bronson was approached by two down-market movie producers, who had no compunctions about making cheap knockoffs of hit movies.
We are producing motion picture with the average cost of 5 million, when the average industry cost in America is 16 million. The difference is that we are cutting what we call the BS, you know.
The BS is what?
Bullshit.
Right.
I have a deal with him.
Menahem Golan and Yoram Globus, nicknamed the Nosh brothers in Hollywood circles, suggested that Bronson dust off his character as an urban vigilante and make a sequel with Michael Winner. To convince him, they offered him $2 million.
When violence rules the city, when the police can't stop it, one man will, his way.
Watch out!
Charles Bronson.
Goodbye.
8 years after the first Death Wish, the sequel rolled out, featuring a truly repugnant rape scene.
My turn.
It enraged the critics.
Well, I regret to say that I don't find it possible to take Death Wish 2 seriously as a film. I was the only woman in the theater. There were 25 men and me, and the men were cracking up at the dialogue, let alone me.
Death Wish 2 is far from thrilling. We know, of course, the direction it's going to take, which is revenge, the movie's only theme, a theme that is delivered with all the monotony of a repeating rifle.
You believe in Jesus, Senator? Well, you're going to meet him.
Replete with stale jokes and floppy stunts, the movie summed up the canon style perfectly and earned over $16 million. The colossal success confined Bronson to a stereotype. His contract with the Cannon Group gave him the right to turn down scripts, but forced him to churn out pictures. He was offered reams of screenplays.
And they're almost all the same. It says, shoot him up, you know, kill him, look out, here he comes, shoot him down, that kind of thing.
Two more sequels and other derivatives followed. Bronson had become a brand, and his movie posters were logos. Skyscraper background, his name in bigger letters than the title. A close-up of his face or a shot of him in silhouette with the trademark mustache. Huge automatic rifle barrels filled the remaining space. Bronson's face sagged as even plastic surgery succumbed to age. The general public got bored with him.
Charles Bronson hasn't exactly been knocking them dead at the box office lately, but he's still a killer at the video store.
It might do 5 million, 8 million, 10 million, maybe 12 million at the box office. Home video, Charles Bronson today, you bring out his new film, 200,000 units at $50, $60 a pop wholesale.
Charles Bronson is back.
The fifth time Bronson donned his vigilante garb, he was 71 years old. For shooting The Face of Death, he was paid $5 million. But the film earned less than $2 million at the box office.
Whatever you want, whatever you need.
I don't need anything.
His final spin was a stinging defeat. It simultaneously brought down the curtain on his film career and doomed him to be remembered with the vigilante albatross around his neck.
Welcome to Coming Attractions. I'm your host, Jay Sherman. Thank you. Tonight, we review an aging Charles Bronson in Death Wish 9.
I wish I was dead. Hey.
In 1984, Jill Ireland was diagnosed with breast cancer. Bronson stopped shooting to support her publicly in her fight against the disease. He projected the image of a tender, attentive man, in striking contrast with the Bronson of ultra-violent thrillers, the one who had lost his appeal for female audiences. A brief remission enabled the couple to shoot again together. Then the cancer returned, ending Jill Ireland's life in 1990. She was 54 years old. Bronson was devastated. A sympathetic Sean Penn offered Bronson a part in his first film as director, The Indian Runner. In this family tragedy, Bronson was to play the role of the patriarch, a tormented man who kills himself after his wife's death.
It's a very small part, yes. That's one reason why I accepted it. I hadn't worked for 2 years because I was giving my time to my wife at the time, and I didn't want to leave her. So I didn't even know that I wanted to work anymore. But I had scripts being sent to me, and there were many of them. And one of them was Sean's script. Then I got to about page 25 of Sean's script. I thought, now who the hell wrote this? And I went back and I saw Sean Penn. I thought, geez, this is pretty good writing. And I finished the script, of course, and thought it was coming from a man far beyond his years, because he had quite an understanding of the characters and the situation.
Do you need anything?
No, thanks, Maria. Thanks. Joe, it didn't sit right with me when you married a Mexican woman. But I look at her today. She's beautiful. She's a beautiful and good woman. Boy, was I wrong. I was dead wrong.
This touching character redeemed him for posterity.
Where are you off to?
North.
What, Cheney? We gotta say something.
On August 30th, 2003, Charles Bronson, who had been diagnosed with Alzheimer's years before, died of complications from pneumonia. A few months later, Quentin Tarantino dedicated the ultimate revenge film to him.
And when I arrive at my destination, I am gonna kill Bill.
Who knows if Charlie would have appreciated it?